Yunlong's story was never supposed to end this way. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the city was still wiping sleep from its eyes, the leaked document began circulating in the shadows of encrypted groups and anonymous forums. At first, it looked like just another rumor, another sensational fabrication meant to stir whispers around a name already surrounded by too much mystery. But as more fragments appeared, photographs, medical signatures, timestamps, people began to understand that this was not rumor. It was a window into truth. A truth someone desperately wanted buried. The autopsy report, stamped with an emblem from the Central Forensic Bureau, was never meant for public eyes. It did not speak with mercy. It did not soften the edges of what had been done to him. Instead, it unfolded like a cold confession, each page exposing something more disturbing than the last. The first image showed Yunlong lying under the harsh fluorescence of an examination room, his once youthful face rigid with death. His eyes were closed, as if in defiance, refusing to witness the final chapter written about him. Experts who caught a glimpse of the leak were stunned. The markings on his neck told a story no one had prepared for. Faint at first glance, but unmistakable under enhanced lighting. Deep linear impressions circling the upper portion of his neck, the kind typically associated with manual force. Not an accident, not self-infliction. Someone had gripped him with intention. Someone had ensured he would never breathe again. Yet this detail was nowhere in the official statement released weeks earlier. The one claiming his death was unrelated to foul play. The inconsistencies were the first spark that ignited a wildfire of speculation. People asked questions the authorities were not prepared to answer. Why were the fingerprints not mentioned? Why did the bruising pattern indicate force applied from behind him? Why had someone tried so desperately to cover up something so evident? But the strangulation marks were only the beginning. One line in the report sent chills through every person who read it. 2 lower incisors missing. Post-mortem interval unclear. Injuries to the mouth are rarely accidental. Even more unusual was the absence of any explanation, any justification for why his teeth might be missing. There was no record of a fall, no medical history of dental trauma, no indication of a natural cause. Only silence. Heavy, deliberate silence. People wondered whether those teeth were removed to conceal a struggle, to hide DNA traces, or perhaps as a message, a chilling signature from whoever had taken his life. Theories multiplied like sparks from a burning log, each one darker than the last. But then came the part of the report that truly shattered everyone's breath, the mysterious abdominal stitches. The document included a close-up image showing a neat but hurried suture line across the lower abdomen. The stitching was not the type typically used in professional medical procedures. Instead, it looked improvised, rough, uneven, performed by someone with just enough skill to close an incision, but not enough to make it look clean. Experts who examined the leaked image suggested it was done after death. That single revelation redirected the entire conversation. Why was there an incision at all? What had been placed inside, or taken out? Theories erupted across every corner of the digital world. Some believed someone had wanted to remove evidence. Others believed something had been implanted and retrieved. A smaller portion, leaning into fear rather than logic, suggested it was symbolic, ritualistic. But regardless of interpretation, one truth loomed large. The cut was deliberate. And it was never mentioned in any official statement. Nothing about the circumstances of Yunlong's death made sense anymore. People who knew him, friends, colleagues, neighbors, began sharing fragments of his last days. He had seemed restless, they said. Distracted. As if carrying a burden too heavy for one person. Some said he had confided in them that he felt watched. Others said he had begun avoiding certain places, certain people. A few recalled he had made cryptic remarks about truths that could destroy powerful men. These memories were dismissed at first as emotional exaggerations. But after the leak, they became pieces of a puzzle no one had known existed. Even more disturbing were the final messages retrieved from his phone the night he disappeared. Messages that read like warnings disguised as casual remarks. If anything happens to me, don't believe what they say. Another said, I am close, too close. Then the last one. They are already here. For weeks, officials insisted he had passed away peacefully, that it was an unfortunate but natural sequence of medical complications. They urged the public to show respect by refraining from speculation. They asked for trust. But trust becomes fragile when contradicted by evidence written in a dead man's silent body. The leak made it impossible to bury the truth. Under the fluorescent lights of the autopsy room, Yu Minlong's body had spoken more loudly than any press release. But the public was not content with the document alone. They wanted to know who authorized the concealment, why the original report presented to the family had been so drastically different, why certain pages were withheld, why certain photographs were missing, why the timeline of his final hours was inconsistent with witness accounts. People began demanding answers, not just from forensic officials, but from those higher up the chain. Those who had access to the body before the autopsy. Those who stood to lose something if the full truth became known. Journalists tried to contact the coroner who signed the report, but he had taken an abrupt leave of absence. His colleagues claimed they had no information. His office remained locked. Another forensic assistant assigned to the case had suddenly transferred to another city. The surveillance cameras in the morgue had conveniently malfunctioned the night Minlong's body was examined. Every thread pulled only revealed more threads, more knots, more hands working behind the scenes. And somewhere in the middle of this web was Yu Minlong, a young man with a future, reduced to a body that could no longer defend itself. His friends described him as someone who never stopped digging when something felt wrong. A mind constantly searching for clarity, a heart too stubborn to give up. Perhaps that very nature had led him somewhere dangerous. Somewhere he was never meant to reach. Somewhere his existence threatened someone powerful. People wondered if his phone still contained the missing piece, the piece he had been so afraid to speak aloud. But the device had vanished the same night he died. Conveniently, the official report claimed it could not be recovered. Yet the leaked autopsy report proved that other things they said could not happen had already happened. The story of Yu Minlong spread beyond the city, beyond the region, crossing borders without permission. His name became a symbol, a question mark carved into the conscience of everyone who read about him. It became a reminder that truth can be powerful enough to terrify those who profit from silence. The leaked autopsy report had already shaken the public's confidence, but the aftermath, what followed in the days after the truth splintered open, was far more explosive. What people didn't know was that part one was only the beginning. Beneath the surface of those clinical sentences and disturbing images were deeper stories, darker motives, and a chain of events more chilling than anyone imagined. The first major shift happened when a former forensic nurse, who had worked at the morgue years earlier, anonymously contacted a journalist known for exposing corruption. She said she couldn't remain silent after seeing what had surfaced. Her message was brief but devastating. The marks on Yu Minlong's neck were not fresh when the official team examined him. They had already begun to fade. That means there was a delay. Someone intentionally stalled the autopsy. This assertion ignited new outrage. A delay meant time someone could use to tamper with the body, manipulate evidence, or even create new injuries. Suddenly, the strangulation marks weren't just disturbing. They were a clue to a timeline that didn't match the official story. The public demanded answers, but all officials offered were carefully crafted statements, each one sounding more scripted than the last. They denied everything, insisting the report circulating online was fabricated. But denial only fueled suspicion. People had seen the images. They had studied the signatures. They had compared the handwriting styles. Every independent expert confirmed the leak was real. The city was no longer calm. Conversations in cafes, in buses, in markets, in classrooms, all circled back to him. Even children whispered his name on the playground, repeating things they heard adults say, behind closed doors. Meanwhile, new witnesses emerged, reluctant, frightened, hesitant to speak at all. A security guard who worked at the building where Minlong had last been seen alive admitted something peculiar. The cameras in the lobby had been disabled for exactly 4 hours that night. Not broken, disabled. Someone with access turned them off manually, he whispered, glancing over his shoulder as if the walls themselves were listening. He said a black SUV had arrived around midnight, stayed for 15 minutes, and left without a trace. The vehicle didn't match any resident's profile. This detail aligned eerily with the timestamp on Minlong's final message. They're already here. But if they truly were, who were they? And why did they want him gone? People began piecing together the events of his last week. He had visited someone, a man known for involvement in confidential research projects. That man, now unreachable, had warned him about a sensitive matter that Minlong had apparently stumbled into by accident. But accidents sometimes reveal secrets more dangerous than intentions. The missing teeth became another dark thread in the mystery. A dental specialist who viewed the leaked image pointed out something unsettling. The teeth weren't forcefully knocked out. They were extracted. Cleanly. Deliberately. Using tools. This shifted the entire narrative. Whoever removed them had knowledge. And purpose. Some believed the teeth were taken to destroy bite mark evidence. Others whispered an even darker possibility. The teeth contained microparticles of something the killers didn't want discovered. Something Minlong might have ingested or been exposed to shortly before his death. Something that could expose their involvement. As theories spiraled, the mysterious abdominal stitches gained more attention. More experts weighed in. One forensic surgeon said the incision resembled emergency organ access, not the precise work of an actual surgeon, but the hurried work of someone who needed to retrieve something quickly. Perhaps a tracking device. Perhaps a data capsule. Perhaps something Minlong didn't even know he was carrying. The more people imagined the possibilities, the more terrifying the truth seemed. It became clear that whatever had been inside him, whatever compelled someone to cut open his abdomen after death, was something worth killing for. A journalist from the independent press released a secretly recorded audio file containing a muffled conversation between two unidentified officials. Their voices trembled with panic. "You shouldn't have leaked anything," the first voice said. "I didn't," the second whispered angrily. "But someone inside did. And if they find out we altered the first report, we're finished. Then get rid of the original. Quickly. It's too late. The copy is already out. Then bury the story. Or bury the people talking." The audio file tore through social media like a shockwave. People didn't need to see faces. The fear in the voices was enough. It confirmed everything. There had been a cover-up, and someone at the highest level was terrified of exposure. At candlelight gatherings held in Minlong's honor, supporters shared their own interpretations. Some believed he had discovered corruption involving high-ranking officials. Others claimed he had been investigating illegal operations hidden under government projects. A few believed the motives were more personal. Perhaps he had trusted the wrong person or overheard the wrong conversation. Still, his story refused to be silenced. Even in his absence, he commanded attention, his name fueling protests, petitions, and late-night broadcasts. People wanted justice, but more than that, they wanted truth. Real truth. The kind that doesn't need press conferences to validate it. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. A young technician from the morgue anonymously submitted a second set of photographs to the press, images that had never appeared in the leaked report. These showed close-ups of Minlong's wrists. Not just bruises, but faint rope impressions, almost invisible unless examined under ultraviolet light. This meant he had been restrained. He had struggled. He had fought for his last breath. The revelation stunned the public. It removed the last shadow of doubt. Minlong hadn't died peacefully. He hadn't died accidentally. He had been overpowered, held down, silenced. And then the final image was revealed, one that made even the calmest viewers feel a chill down their spine. It showed his hand, stiff and pale, but clenched, not empty. Inside his curled fingers was a piece of fabric, torn from something dark and heavy. Perhaps a glove. Perhaps a uniform. He had held on to his killer in his final moment. A silent act of defiance. The continuation of his story has now become a battle cry. People speak his name with fire in their voices. They refuse the official script. They reject every attempt to distort his legacy. They know he died fighting, and they have decided to fight for him in return. Somewhere out there, the people responsible for his death are watching the growing movement with unease. They are realizing that the truth they tried to bury has become the very force rising against them. Yu Menlong, the fictional symbol of truth and resistance, has become unstoppable. And even though he is gone, the world he left behind has finally woken up.